Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declaring a state of emergency in the city of Lod after riots broke out there amid escalating hostilities between Jews and Palestinians. This human rights attorney is on the ground in Israel.
It's also really scary to see people cheering this, justifying murder, justifying the bombing, justifying the rockets being aimed at my children.
Let's bring in tonight's panel to discuss. Fox News contributors Leslie Marshall and Jason Chaffetz. And live from Israel tonight, human rights attorney Brooke Goldstein. Welcome to all of you. I want to start with Brooke. You're there on the ground. What can you tell us about the situation now?
First of all, thank you for having me. What I can tell you is last night was the scariest night of my life, where I ran with my children to the bomb shelter. My 3 children slept in the bomb shelter as we heard sirens outside, as we heard loud explosions on and on again. This is nothing but terrorism. And what is even scarier is witnessing this from the inside and seeing U.S. politicians, seeing the mainstream media, seeing Christiane Amanpour, seeing people like Bella Hadid influencers justify terrorism targeting innocent civilians.
Jason, you've been a member of Congress as a Republican. We have a couple of Democratic members of Congress who say there's more to this story, and they are speaking out. Here's Representative Ilhan Omar tweeting yesterday. Israeli airstrikes killing civilians in Gaza is an act of terrorism. Palestinians deserve protection. Unlike Israel, missile defense programs such as Iron Dome don't exist to protect Palestinian civilians. It's unconscionable to not condemn these attacks on the week of Eid. How do you respond, Jason?
I'm always stunned the positions that she takes. Let's understand where Hamas gets its weapons and its money. They come from Iran. And the Biden administration has been coddling Iran. I think they feel empowered at this point. They're going to benefit financially. And so I think they're testing the Biden administration because they know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will not stand strong with Israel. And remember, this wasn't happening with Donald Trump. There was a clear line out there. People weren't doing it. They were signing peace accords. And now look at the chaos in the Middle East. And the UN is saying it could be a full-on war. That is not good for the peace and prosperity of the country or the region. And Joe Biden has got to step up and express his concern and express our alliance with Israel.
Yeah, certainly not good for the civilians through the region on all sides of this, and many of them are being exploited. We know that. The Wall Street Journal editorial board says this today: Hamas tests Israel and Biden. They go on to say in the piece, the White House has given the Democratic left virtually everything it could hope for since Inauguration Day. But if there's one issue on which the administration still sounds more like the old guard, it's the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They end the piece saying, let's hope Mr. Biden is prepared to affirm that America's top regional alliance is more important than the dictates of social justice ideology. Leslie.
Well, everything coming out of the White House today actually states and reconfirms that. I mean, Israel is a very strong ally. But we also have to look at, yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization. And the reality is they're not going to revoke their charter. They're not going to admit that Israel is a sovereign state. And they're not going to admit that it has the right to exist. That aside, if you have police go in on one of the holiest holidays of Ramadan, one of the 3 holiest sites of the religion of Islam, and you don't think there's going to be any pushback, and that comes on the heels when in the beginning Israel was not going to provide COVID vaccines, and then they did eventually, when they have restricted or taken away water, electricity, have placed travel bans. This has been, I lived in Israel in 1996. I lived in Israel in 1996, and I didn't interrupt you when you spoke. I lived in Israel in 1996, and I have to say that this has been brewing for decades, and it's not going to stop until there is a 2-state solution, until the settlements stop.
Let's put this in context. The Arabs have been inciting and murdering Jews over the last multiple weeks. They have been throwing stones at Jews who have been worshiping peacefully at the Western Wall. What the Israeli police did is come in to contain the violence, and they were met with violence. But this is not about the Al-Aqsa Mosque, okay? This is not even about a property dispute that's being used as an excuse by the media. This is about incitement and Jew hatred. Look at what's happening all over the world. Jews are being attacked. A woman in France was murdered and thrown out of her window. A Jew today, there was an attempted lynching today in New York City. Jews are being attacked all over the world, and this is nothing different. Creating another Islamist state is not a solution to anything. Completely disarming and getting rid of a terrorist group that's using civilians as human shields, that is the solution. And creating these propaganda narratives to justify the targeting of my children with over 500 rockets is insane.
Jason, Fox News at Night has been to that region. I've sat down with leaders on all sides of this. We went over into Ramallah and sat down with the top Palestinian negotiator at the time, Saeb Erekat, who has since passed away. It felt pretty hopeless. I got to tell you, when I was there, that there would be any meeting in the middle over anything. Quick final comment from you.
I've had similar experiences. I've been there many times, but I can tell you, with Donald Trump at the helm, United States took a leadership position, and things are happening in the Middle East and creating peace. That certainly is not the case since January 20th came with Joe Biden at the helm.
Well, for all of the people of the region, we wish protection and safety and a quick resolution if there can possibly be one. Thank you all. And Brooke, we pray for your safety and all the folks of the region there.